Hey everybody, happy hump day. Welcome back to Snake Limited. If you guys don't know the name of this daily vlog that I'm now doing, I say TSRR in the title for all my videos, but it's actually called the Snake Rack Report. So we're up in the mid-30s at this point with this video, so it's going pretty well. The feedback has been positive. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. This has really gotten nothing but positive reviews since I started it, 30 some episodes ago. I plan on doing this permanently at this point. So like, subscribe, get this content out to more people. And so today, I'm actually recording this Tuesday night, but today I had a lot of comments from somebody specifically about snake size, and they asked, why are your snakes so big, at a year old? And I think he was referring to the pieds and the ultramels that I was showing in the Tuesday video. And I said, well, I'm just feeding my snakes. Like I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary. And they referenced how they had purchased a couple snakes and they were 2 years old, and one of them was still around, it was like a 2022, and it was still around 300 grams or so. And I said, well, that's really small in my opinion for a 2-year-old snake. Now, it could have been late 2022, so, it's not, completely 2 years old. It could be a year and a half old, but 300 some grams for a year and a half old snake is still pretty stinking small. And usually that happens because the snake was a picky eater. It was very hard to get on the food, or the breeder just wasn't really feeding it. We usually call it maintenance feeding, meaning they're only feeding that snake the bare minimum amount of food to keep it somewhat healthy, but it's not really giving it enough food to grow. So that's where, to me, the openness of a breeder or a seller in their listings comes into play. And I provide as much information as possible about my snakes when I'm selling them. Basically, I'm in the business of selling hatchlings, right? I'm not growing snakes up for 1, 2, 3 years and selling them as adults. So 90-some% of the snakes that I'm selling are things that I've produced, and they're usually still hatchlings. If I'm selling adults, they were probably snakes that I had purchased at one time. So I didn't produce them myself. I used them for breeding purposes, and then I upgraded them through the offspring I created for myself. So if I am usually selling adults, they're not snakes I produced. So those snakes' eating habits and breeding habits aren't things that I'm always 100% confident with. However, when I'm selling hatchlings that I've produced, I don't know if I haven't really heard from any previous customers saying that any of the snakes I've sold them didn't, take off and just start eating for them like little pigs that they are right here. I don't know if I've really sold any snakes that were picky eaters, because most of them aren't. The only snake that I have in my entire collection, or any of the snakes that I had produced from last year, whether I sold them or held them back, I have one snake that's still a picky eater, and that's Tiny Tim that I showed from last year. It's this little dude that just started eating on his own within the last few months, and he's actually doing a fantastic job now. He is eating weekly on his own. He's eating live ASFs, and as you can see, he's starting to finally put on some weight. Let's actually see. I don't even know what he weighs right now. Let's see. I mean, he was very tiny because I was having to force feed him for a while. So what's he at right now? So he's finally, he hit the century mark. Good news. He's finally over 100 grams. He's the same size as one of those ultramel hatchlings that I just hatched out, and this snake is over 6 months old. So now this guy, I don't know if I'll ever sell him or not. Maybe somewhere down the line. If I do, I will absolutely put in that listing that he was a very picky eater for the first 6 months of his life. He did not want to eat anything. It took him a while, but he's finally decided to get on the food by himself, and now he's eating great. Now, I don't know if I'll sell him or not, though, because I believe he's a Super OD, possible blade, obviously pied, and he is 66% double het MJ Xanthic and clown. And the only other male that I have like him is actually the dad, and he's 100% double het, but he's only a single gene OD blade. So he could be a small upgrade over dad. So I don't know if I'd keep him or not, but he's a beautiful snake and he's finally eating on his own. But I will absolutely list that he was a picky eater and had some feeding issues to start off his life. But we are all golden now, as you can see him there. So there's a couple things you really need to look for in those listings when you're buying snakes. And I had made a video, and I've referenced this multiple times, I think through videos and through maybe even some posts. And I just made this video sometime this year. I don't remember when it was, what month it was. But weight in correlation to the age of the snake is extremely important, because it tells you whether that snake has been maintenance fed or a picky eater, or whether it has a healthy growth rate. My snakes, I do not power feed. I do not recommend anybody to power feed their snakes. That means you're basically feeding them as often as they'll take a meal. That means if you try to feed them 2 rats a week, that they're eating 2 rats a week and 2 big rats, where you're basically making your snakes fat and overweight. Now, you know, what is too fat and what is overweight is, I think, can be subjective or objective, because there's lots of varying opinions of that. But making the snake kind of artificially grow too quick, too fast, just because you want to breed it quicker, isn't a good way to do it. The majority of my snakes, and these are, you know, all of the, let's say the Ultramels Project Het Pieds, or the Pied Het Ultramels that I produced last year. And this is a crazy example because she's just insane in terms of growth rate. She's literally probably never missed a meal. She was born in March of 2023. And as you can see here, she has a healthy body condition. She's not overweight at all, and she's not gonna work with me here. She's not overweight. She's not super fat. She looks healthy. She eats weekly, and that's what a healthy snake looks like if they're eating all the time. In comparison, I believe her cousin here I think she was March of last year, and she was actually May the 4th of last year. That's when she hatched, and that's why her name is Leia. There's a big size difference here. I mean, she's about 1,600 grams at this point and looking like she's trying to bite me. And she's about 700 or 800. She went off food for quite a few months, very on and off. I couldn't get her on consistently. She's finally eating again. But, you know, that's still a gigantic size difference. She's about twice the size at this point. But the reason I didn't panic with this girl is she's still a decent size. And let's actually go measure her. She never got too thin. She never got, you know, significantly underweight. She still looks like a very healthy snake. Let's weigh her. So she's just about exactly a year old, and she's 700 grams on the nose. So she's still a fantastic looking snake. She's a year old. She took a few months off from eating, and she never ate consistently like her cousin, but she's still 700 grams, and she's just a couple weeks, about a week or so over being a year old. So that's sort of kind of my benchmark. If I have a picky eater over here who is, you know, not taking a meal every week, sometimes can take a few weeks off at a time from eating, and she's still 700 grams at 1 year old. Again, she was born May 4th, and I'm recording this on, what day is today? Today is the 14th. So she's a year and 10 days old, and she's 700 grams exactly. And she is one of the smaller snakes that I produced, I would say, age versus weight from 2023. And she's still 700 grams. So if you have snakes that are from 2022 and they're still 300 grams, that snake was either not eating for the previous owner or breeder, or was maintenance fed. And that should be information that you should either be asking for or be given up front from the person selling it. If somebody is saying or treating a snake that's 1.5 years, 2 years old as if it's normal for it to be 300 grams, it's complete bullshit, and I wouldn't even be touching that snake. If it was up to me, I wouldn't even be looking at it. If I saw that it was a 2022 and it was only 300 grams, to me, that's like kind of puts up a caution flag or a or a flare. It's like somebody shooting a flare gun up in the sky. Just stay away. That's what that means to me when they're that size. Because the majority of my snakes, and let me get back to maybe some hatchlings here. Let's get over to the hatchlings. Let's see what I have. Let's turn the scale back on. No, I don't know exactly when this clutch hatched, but these were some of the Blackxanthics that I produced earlier this year. So these are 2024s. I want to say this was a February clutch, and these are one of the snakes that I'm not keeping. He's 285. So this is one of the snakes that I'm not keeping. So I don't pay as close of attention to their meal sizes. Basically, with snakes like this, I'm just trying to make sure they're getting, you know, appropriately sized foods in them every week. I'm not feeding him, you know, pinky mice still. He's getting basically adult-sized mice. And I try to have most of the snakes I'm selling sold by the time they need anything bigger than that. But I'm not moving him up to bigger prey items yet. But he's almost 300 grams, and I would say at the oldest, he's 4 months old. So that 4-month-old snake is at the very least a year younger than the snake that the person commented on my video today. He's at least a whole year younger. Could be more than that. Could be 1.5 years younger. And he's the same size. And that's a snake I'm not keeping. So I'm not paying as close of attention to the meals he's getting. And I'm obviously not power feeding it. And he's that size already. So if you're getting snakes that are years old and are still the size of the snakes from other people that are just months old, don't buy it. It's not a good idea. It's not a good choice. That's probably, I would have to assume, not even a normal growth rate for a snake in the wild. I don't know that for sure. That would just be my guess. For it to only be 300 grams at 2 years old, I mean, at that point, even a female would be at sexual maturity. I mean, that's like, they have to be eating a very small meal size to be only growing that much within 2 years. So, I don't power feed. I don't believe in that. Most of these snakes at this point, because I switched over heavily to ASFs last year, they get 1 a week. And I don't have enough old breeder adult ASFs to go around where I'm feeding them like the larger ASFs. Most of them are just getting like 1, like sub-adult, maybe just turned into like adult size ASF a week. And that's all they're eating. They're just getting 1 a week. And usually most of these snakes eat once a week. So it's not hard to put weight on these snakes, and you really need to know where that snake came from in terms of its feeding habits to make sure that you're getting a healthy snake and that you're not getting a problem child. Because with ball pythons especially, having a snake that has bad eating habits is very stressful, especially for people that are just buying these as pets or have very small collections, because it's hard to get a hold of food items to feed that snake. I produce all 3 types of rodents that most people feed their they're ball pythons, I have Norwegians, I have mice, and I have ASFs, and I still have snakes that are a pain in the butt to eat, and it's stressful on me to get them to eat sometimes. When I have snakes, you know, that just want to go off food for no reason, and I'm counting on them to breed, or I'm counting on them to do one thing or the other, or be ready by a certain time, and you can't do anything about it, it's stressful. But when you only have one snake, and you only have, you know, the one pet snake that you can pick up, or you only have a small handful of snakes that you can buy, you don't want to be picking up snakes that are just nothing but a headache for you.